Haley Victory Smith from Young Voices joins us today along with our two veterans, Shelby Emmett and Jason Russell. Let me give you the victory at the beginning. So is there a China trade deal?
Well, I think we know very few details at this point. I mean, this is something that President Trump was just tweeting about 20 minutes ago. The answer is I don't really know if we have a trade deal or not.
So what does it mean if we have come full circle and do have a trade deal? How important is that?
Well, I think it's very important. I think that China is a really important partner, and I think that it's important that we have a deal with them that is substantive, that is not just kind of a deal in name only, but actually has beneficial effects for the United States.
You know, I want to stay on China. You know, obviously the NBA commissioner and his players have been in the line of fire because they make billions of dollars from the Chinese economy. And when the general manager of the Houston Rockets tweeted out more power to the protesters, it did not sit well with the Chinese. They're about as sensitive as our president, and they reacted swiftly.
Worse, actually.
Yeah,
people need to be very grateful. You know, this is a concern. So we've talked about this before, Armstrong. One of the things
Let me come back to you, Haley. The president pulled out on northern Syria. I know my colleagues in the press reports that it was just all of a sudden abrupt. But the president, no different than what he said a year ago as it relates to Afghanistan and as it relates to Iraq. There's a $1.2 billion burn rate every week, $50 billion a year. We just cannot afford that anymore. I cannot justify telling parents why their sons and daughters are coming home in body bags when the war has changed. It benefits the military complex. It benefits the establishments, the Republicans and Democrats. That's why both have come out so strong against the president. The president is not necessarily interested in this global expansionism. He's more of an isolationist. But he did say we're going to pull out, and that's what he's doing.
Well, I think this is clearly a politically motivated decision on the part of the president. President Trump clearly wants to be the person who gets troops out of the Middle East. I think he'd really like to be able to campaign on that in 2020. But that doesn't mean this was necessarily a wise decision. I think that, our political system is predisposed to make us unreliable allies because one president does not necessarily feel the obligation to uphold the promises of a previous president, and that is why this power to decide when and wars happen, when and where wars happen, should lie with Congress, and Congress should demand their power back in this situation so that situations like this that are abrupt do not continue.
Let's come back to the states. Giuliani, has the president come to the realization that he's more of a liability than ever before?
I hope so. It's pretty bad. I mean, I think Rudy Giuliani wanted to be Secretary of State. He did not get selected, first or second. And so he worked with the president to kind of become his under-the-table, almost black market Secretary of State, where he was acting of his own accord and supposedly working with the State Department on foreign affairs and things like that. But he certainly just caused much more damage than he has ever been worth. I think Trump.
But was the president aware of all the moves of Giuliani?
That's a good question. I don't know that, and I think that is one thing that is worth investigating. But to have Rudy Giuliani, who was not an official member of the government, was President Trump's personal lawyer, not his White House counsel, having influence on foreign affairs is
yeah, I agree, but let's also be honest. But Donald Trump has always been that person. Why is everybody shocked that Donald Trump is acting disrespectful and rude?
Can't we make him better?
He is who he is, and everybody knew this when they voted for him.
Go ahead.
So the other day, I was looking for that Mitt Romney tweet that the president had sent out, and I had to go through Twitter and search the word ass with him, and I found so many results. I mean, I was just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and I think it's just absolutely inappropriate that the president of the United States speaks in such a manner, but I think it's also unrealistic for us to assume that Donald Trump is in any way going to change. I mean, he was who he was when he came into office, and the majority of those tweets were from before he came into office. So I think the idea that we're going to somehow change President Trump or make him more presidential, that's been tried and it hasn't succeeded.
Have we given up on civility, like in a post-Trump era? Are we just going to be like, well, Trump is doing it, so now it's okay for the president to use these words and these language? And you know, I feel like there are not some Democrats. I don't think they go quite as far as the language that Trump has been using, but I've seen some pretty nasty language from Democrats as well. So it's just this debasement of politics into this completely uncivil representation of our society, and it's like WWE wrestling rather than people trying to have a conversation. You know, it's just politics is about entertainment now rather than about trying to actually, you know, present your ideas.